Hi guys, it's Stefan here with Real Fitness Coaching, and today we're going through a selection of exercises for the deep core muscles. Now, not just these superficial abdominal muscles that you see, the abdominals and the obliques, but also the deeper core muscles, your transverse abdominis, diaphragm, pelvic floor. These muscles help to really create stability in the lower back and the pelvis. And they're key for getting a foundation of strength in the core muscles before you progress to anything else. Now, this request comes from a number of people, not just women but men as well. And with women in particular, post-pregnancy is an obvious setting where the tendon and muscles separate and then they sometimes don't knit back together completely. And strengthening these deeper core muscles is going to be a great strategy to help create that stability and allow you to go on to other exercises and any activities that you want to do. In men who've maybe been in the military or done a lot of sit-ups using their feet underneath a training partner or a bench or something and pulling themselves up using not only the abdominal muscles but the deeper pelvic muscles as well, and that can lead to a ridge down the abdominals in the middle. It's also great for people who've come into exercise now having never done anything for a while or before and want to make sure that the back and the core is really a strong foundation that you can then go on to other exercises to keep you safe and working effectively into your workouts. Now, the exercises are going to require some equipment. We want a yoga block, a foam yoga block, or a cushion that you can put your knee up onto, something just to elevate slightly. Yoga blocks are great for this, but you can use a cushion. And you may or may not want to use a light medicine ball or a light dumbbell, just something to add a bit more resistance, but that is as we progress. So body weight should suffice to start with. So we're going to be getting into those exercises right now. Let's go. So the first exercise we're going to do is activating the transverse abdominis, the deepest core muscle. Standing sideways on so you can see, and I place one hand behind my back and one hand on my abdominal region, just in line with my belly button. Standing tall, and I'm not going to go ramrod straight, but rather I'm just going to think about being lifted toward the ceiling from my crown. So I'm nice and tall, decompressed, but not overly exaggerating this arch in the back. And then with my hands in this position, as I draw my navel in, to create space here, to create a nice big concave. Breathing in as I go, just to emphasize how the breathing works with this one. And exhaling out. Now, you can do this ultimately without having to breathe in as you pull those abdominal muscles inwards. I'm doing it nice and slow to begin with, just so you can see, you're going to feel for this, and the timing is what you start with. Pulling in, holding for a brief moment. And I can feel the muscles in my back and in my core working as I draw to create this concave. And imagine tying a tape measure or a piece of string around your belly button when you're relaxed around your middle. And then when you draw in, that tape measure would go slack because you're creating out a smaller, narrower waist. Now you can do this for multiple repetitions. You can speed this up ultimately as you get more powerful with these muscles. You can do it lying down, so you've got the floor behind you as a acting in place of your hand, or leaning against a wall. I like to do it standing personally because then I'm working that posture as well at the same time. And the hand behind the back will give you that sense of muscle activation in the back. And you will feel these muscles across your back, the deep core muscles as well, in the back, firing up as you create that. Now, it might be difficult initially to feel your way into those muscles and get them working, but persist with this one. Think about drawing inwards and upwards, and again, drawing those hands together as you pull in, until you feel the fatigue in those muscles. And in terms of repetitions, I would start off using 10 to 20 repetitions as your range, but you could increase that as you go on. It depends on how powerfully you're able to work those muscles. You're really looking just to get those muscles active and then start to feel some fatigue. And then give them a break of maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds, go for a second or even a third round after those. Okay, so our second exercise is going to be on all fours using the yoga block. So I'm going to place the yoga block here and I'm going to place it underneath one knee. I'm going onto all fours with an even distance between my hands and then an even distance between both my hands and my knees. Now as I come up onto all fours, I'm actually not on all fours because this knee is elevated, but I don't want to shift my body weight towards the block. I'm going to try and keep my weight in the center between my hands are between my knees. I don't want to let my knee drop down towards the floor, and I've got my toes brought forward so that they can grip the floor and give me an extra bit of purchase and stability. Now the spine, I'm going to stay long through the spine. I don't want to drop my body down and create that bow in my back. And I don't want to round or dome my back either. Stay long through the neck and the shoulders, so not bunching up, but rather a nice, stable, strong position. Imagine someone was going to sit on your back like a bench and you'd be able to hold them up as best you could. Now, already from this position, I can feel that I'm putting a little bit more weight onto this arm on the unsupported side, and that's because I don't have a block underneath this knee. From here, what I can do is, keeping both hands on the floor, fingers spread wide, so I've got a nice base of support, lift the knee, and then bring the leg back behind me. And I'm looking to create a nice straight line from my head down to my heel, and then bring that knee forward. And I'm pulling the navel inwards and upwards, a little bit like we did with our previous exercise. So I can really feel the core muscles working to create that narrow waist as I reach back. Now by moving the leg in this way for maybe 10 or 15 repetitions, I'm creating a bit of turbulence, a bit of need for extra stability. And I bring that to a stop there. And I can really feel the weight on my shoulder as well. So I'm getting a bit of upper body working, but the goal is to work the core. So make sure your weight isn't too far forward. From here I can switch this across. So you can see just from a different side here. I'm going to lift the hip and again, not shift my weight over to the side so my weight is central over the block, but rather so my weight is central between my hands and between my knees, not too far forward or too far back. And with the toes gripping the floor, I can go ahead and get my spine in position, long through the neck and shoulders, long from head to hips. I lift my heel and then slowly, carefully and deliberately bring my foot out, straight line from head to heel, bring it back, and nice and slow, as stable as I can, pulling that navel in and reaching out and back. Okay, one more. Much harder than it looks, this one. Whew. All right, and again, I'm really looking to draw that navel in to create that proud posture and that narrow waistline. And in terms of repetitions, you can do anywhere from 10 to 20 repetitions, of course doing both sides. Now to progress that, you can go ahead and lift one arm off the floor. For example, if I'm on all fours and I come up and I have one leg out behind me, I'm going to lift the opposite arm to the leg that's reaching out. Okay, that way I've got even more instability because I only have 3 points of contact with the floor now, my palm, my knee and the toes. And I definitely want to use the toes because if I don't, I'm far too unstable. So I prefer to get the toes forward and gently gripping the floor as I go. And again, the movement of the leg creates that turbulence, that instability that really ramps up the core muscles working. All right. So for our third exercise, you may want to have a medicine ball handy, but we're not going to start with that, but rather start off lying on my back. From here, with a nice long spine, I'm going to bring my knees up 90-90. So 90 degrees at my knees, 90 degrees at my hips. And my hands are going to be up into the air, straight above my chest. From here, I'm going to hold one knee in that position, and the other leg is going to reach out. So almost like the same movement we just did, but I'm lying on my back rather than facing the floor, kneeling on the yoga block. Now to progress this, I can go ahead and bring the opposite arm back down toward the floor in the opposite direction. Now that's going to make it a lot more challenging. It doesn't look much, but I'm consciously pulling the navel down towards the floor. I don't want to have any arch in my back at all, but at the same time, I don't want to go super the other way and really posteriorly tilt. But I want to keep that neutral spine, that straight line from head through the hips, without being out of control of that arch in my back. So once again, Opposite arm, opposite leg. Slow and controlled. The slower we move, the more we're focusing on the neural activation of the muscle being innervated by the nervous system, not just the strength in the muscle. Now I'm going to alternate from one side to the other. You may find that it's trickier on one side than the other. You may have a weaker side. And there's a number of reasons for that, but you could focus on one side in straight repetitions, or you can alternate if you find that it's pretty even and you just want to switch from one side to the other. Now, the longer you reach your leg out, of course, the more challenging it's going to be. And if you add more resistance with the medicine ball, it's going to make it more challenging still. If you find the lower back is arching, then just stop the leg at a certain point. Find that point at which you have control, and you can position yourself near to a wall so that your feet can't go any further than the wall if you need to. To add a bit more resistance, you can go ahead and add the medicine ball. A little bit of weight goes a long way. From here, as I reach up and back overhead, not to the floor, and then alternate. I'm using both arms rather than alternating arms, but I'm alternating legs. And slow and deliberate. Keep that lower back flat to the floor, pull that belly button, that navel down towards the mat, and keep it slow and deliberate. Breathing in on the way down, and breathing out on the way up. All right. And in terms of repetitions, I would go for between 10 and 15 repetitions per leg to make up one set. But pause when you need to, particularly if you feel that lower back coming off of the floor, and find out what is the right repetition range for you. Now, in terms of putting those three exercises together, you could do one set of each exercise and create a little circuit that you could work through. Or you can put one or more of those exercises either at the beginning with your warm-up or at the end of a routine to help really strengthen the core afterwards, after you've finished your exercises. But use those exercises. You can even do them if they're quite gentle. They're about activating the muscles rather than just strengthening them. So you could do those exercises every single day if you need to. Let me know in the comments down below if you found those effective, if you found those helpful, and I will see you for another workout very soon.